Hey guys, welcome to my channel BitGlen. My name's Glenn and I'm trying to vlog what I learned through my cryptocurrency journey that I've had over the last sort of 3 to 4 months. And I invite you guys to subscribe to my channel so you can follow my journey and what I learn as I go along. And you're more than welcome to comment out anything that I do wrong, what I do right. And obviously I'll try and be as honest as I can with you guys with my investments and my mistakes and what I've learned as I've gone along. Today we're going to be talking about hard forks. So this is a topic that I got asked to make actually through my Telegram group, and I invite you to join that as well. So just down below in the description there's a link for Telegram. Telegram is an app that you can download for free, and we can actually have like a group chat if you like between us and all the other people that have joined in, or you can just read along if you want to, you haven't got a comment. But one of the guys in there said, Glenn, why don't you do a video about the hard forks that are coming up? Because there's a couple of coins coming up in the market that are going to have hard forks. And if you actually buy one of their coins now, you'll actually get the new coin as well. So this inspired me to try and understand what a hard fork was. When I first joined cryptocurrency 3 months ago, obviously the coin that I got introduced to straight away, and the one that I heard in the news and in the press, was Bitcoin. Obviously coming into Bitcoin, I was confused as to why there was 3 or 4 different types of Bitcoin. There's Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin Gold, obviously the original Bitcoin, and I didn't quite understand it. And someone, mentioned in a video, oh yeah, it's because they got forked off, and I didn't quite understand what that meant. So I thought I would do this video for you guys if you're new into cryptocurrency space, just to give a very basic level understanding of what a fork is and why these other coins are getting generated off the original blockchain. So hopefully I don't completely ruin it. I'm not technically minded. I did do IT for a few years, but I'm not in any way a developer. So now that's a bit about me out of the way. So let's get into it. Let's talk about hard fork. So what is a hard fork? What does that actually mean? So I'm going to try and explain it in sort of my simple mind terms. If you imagine a coin that was created, so Satoshi made the original Bitcoin, and obviously he had a white paper and he developed this coin. And he had a vision of what it was going to become or what it was going to be used for. And in the title of that white paper, he did state that he wanted Bitcoin to be an online digital version of cash. So whereas I can just go into my local shop and I can buy a newspaper and some milk using coins and cash, he wanted the same thing but online. And eventually, obviously, we've all got phones now. I could probably walk in a shop and with contactless, just bing, and I could pay for my milk and my newspaper. But what has actually happened, Bitcoin, as it was more widely available and got used by more and more people, it has become slower because the amount of information on everyone's ledger in the blockchain has become so dense. There's so much information that has to be processed. So this means that blocks are getting longer to work out, which means money's taken longer to go from one account to another. So therefore, in my example of me going to the newsagents, or a shop if you're from America, grocery store if you like, if I was to go in and buy that milk and newspaper, I would ping them my money and it could take 3 hours before that transaction goes through. Whereas obviously the current banking system we have, you put your card into the machine, and even though it does take, it actually takes a few days for the money to go from my account into the, the grocery store owner's account. Banks actually look at each other's, accounts in a way, and they can say, yeah, Glenn's got £10 in his bank, so let him leave the shop now and we'll transfer you the money in the next couple of days. And this is why when you check your bank statements, if you was to go and buy something from a shop, sometimes even though you can see the transaction there, it hasn't actually come out yet. It's just the bank saying, yeah, okay, we'll allow this to go through because at this point in time, at this exact minute you did have that amount available. You had £100. You bought something for £1, so you now have £99. But it takes a few days for that pound to actually come out. So we have this trust system with the banks, and they sort all that out for us, and they take a cut every time that we do that transaction. We don't see it as a customer, the merchant sees it, so the shop owner. And I know this because I own my own business and I see how much money they take out for every card transaction. So with Bitcoin, you have to actually, the funds have to go from this account into this account. And until that happens, there's no middleman in between to say, yeah, go on, let him leave the shop. So actually Bitcoin became very slow. It's not very practical to use in that sort of sense. Even buying stuff online, I purchase things online using Bitcoin, and you have to wait until you receive a confirmation email that the transaction's actually gone through, which could take, at one point, about 2 months ago, when Bitcoin was worth, $20,000, and everyone was trying to buy it and sell it and exchange it for altcoins and ICOs, and it was taking ages for any transaction to go through. It just wasn't very practical and it wasn't working as such. So some developers got together and obviously decided, right, do you know what? Bitcoin, if you imagine Satoshi's, he's tarmacked a road. He's made an own road. He's made the little white lines going down the middle and the yellow lines at the side. He's made this road that is obviously going straight forward. Someone may decide, well, actually, I think transactions would be a lot faster if we did this or if we did that. So what they've done is they've created their own coin using a hard fork. So if you imagine that road, they've gone off on their own path. So now you've got two roads running, but maybe going to different destinations, or different paths, different ways of doing the same thing essentially. So you can still drive on that road, or you could turn off and obviously go on to this new road. And that is a hard fork essentially. So Bitcoin Cash, that was one of the big ones, because they actually said, right, do you know what, the amount of information that's in each block, we want to increase that size so that more information gets processed per block, therefore freeing up space, freeing up the mempool, which I won't go into all that now because I'm not technically advanced enough to. But that means transactions got worked out a lot better and quicker and cheaper. The other downside with Bitcoin is that there is a process called mining. So every time someone works out a block of information, they get rewarded with some Bitcoin. Now that Bitcoin has to come from somewhere. So there's so much Bitcoin that's going to be generated every year or every few years. But also transaction fees are included in those blocks. So if I transfer some Bitcoin from me to the grocer or the newsagents, whatever you want to call it, and I pay a fee of 50p or 50 cent, that doesn't go, the merchant doesn't get charged that. I get charged it as a retail person, and that goes into a pool for all the blocks that get worked out, and the miners get rewarded for that. So even after all the Bitcoins are worked out, there is still going to be potentially, obviously, profit to be made from mining, which is good news for them. But obviously, if you have a big investment like the miners do, and the most common one is Bitmain, they are one of the largest makers. They make the Antminer S9s, and they obviously generate a lot of the mining power around the world. They might turn around and say, no, actually, we don't agree with that. We don't agree with the way that it's going. We're going to go off with this coin, or we're going to stick to this one. Because obviously their commission, their transaction fees could decrease, which means they're earning less money for mining, which obviously makes them less profitable, which means their equipment's not as profitable, which means their whole business model collapses. So you've got obviously different people with different ideas and different incentives to stick or stay with a fork or a soft fork, hard fork, whatever. So it's quite complicated, but obviously I'll try and stick to just basics. So that was the most common one, Bitcoin converting into Bitcoin Cash. Bitcoin Cash has gone up a lot in value, obviously because it carries that Bitcoin name. Because there are other coins out there that pretty much do what Bitcoin Cash do, but they're named something else. But because Bitcoin have that Bitcoin name, and for any new person coming into the space, like myself, 3 months ago, I thought, hang on a minute, why is there 3 different Bitcoins? Should I own a little bit of all of them? Because, you know, how do I know which one's going to eventually be the one that takes over the world, if you like? So that is a tough decision. You have to sort of look at what technology they're offering, their community, which one has the most potential maybe to gain value, but also are they going to do something that solves an issue, solves a problem for people? So they're all things that obviously you need to look at before investing into one of these new coins. So the way that the blockchain works before they fork is say the Bitcoin into Bitcoin Cash as this example. You can see here certain blocks get worked out, and a fork is determined at a hard fork is determined at a block. So they might say, right, okay, at block number 1267, it's going to be or 68, sorry. The blockchain is going to be forked, and there's going to be 2 blockchains running now. So we've got the original Bitcoin SegWit running at converting from block 1268, and then you've got Bitcoin Cash. Now what happens is, if you actually own say 1 Bitcoin at the time of this happening, this fork, so you own a Bitcoin, you're on this road and it forks off, what happens is you're generated 1 of that Bitcoin as well, Bitcoin Cash, or whatever it is that it sort of forks into. So now you've got 2 different currencies put together. Now you have to be careful of this, because some exchanges, if you was to hold your, and I'm just going to use this as an example, I'm not saying this is definitely the case with whatever company, but say Binance, if I had 10 Bitcoin with Binance, and Bitcoin gets hard forked into, you know, Bitcoin God, as one of them's called, they may not necessarily give me, you know, 10 Bitcoin God coins. They may keep them for themselves, because my money is with them, and obviously it's been forked while they're there, and that's up to the exchanges. Some of them have honoured it and gave it to their customers, which I think is an excellent thing to do. Some of them don't. So you have to be careful of that, and look into, if you're storing money on an exchange and there's about to be a hard fork, you need to look into whether your exchange actually will honour that for you. Otherwise you may lose out, especially for people that have a lot of Bitcoin. Generally this happens if you own a certain amount. So for someone like me who owns, you know, 0.05 of a Bitcoin, I wouldn't get 0.05 of the new coin. It would only work if I owned 1.0 of a Bitcoin. I would receive 1.0 of a Bitcoin Cash. I believe that's how it works. Please correct me if you feel I'm wrong. So that's a hard fork. A soft fork is where a developer may say, well, actually, I want Bitcoin to have this added to it, and obviously they all have to agree together. If one of these developers say, no, actually, I think that's I don't think Bitcoin should have that, then it wouldn't go through. Or if a certain percentage of developers voted against it, it wouldn't go through. So a soft fork is like a software update, if you like, or something's changed in the blockchain, but it hasn't forked into a new coin. It's still on the original blockchain. So they're the 2 differences between a soft and a hard fork. A hard fork actually creates a new coin from that fork. So with all these coins, you'll notice on CoinMarketCap, the website, that there's actually something like, I don't know, 1,500 coins now, maybe 2,000 coins. And they've all generally either created their own blockchain, so they've started a new blockchain from scratch, or they've been forked off another one. Some of them are scams, Actually, a lot of them are scams. A lot of them are nothing. You know, they're literally coins people have created and hope that people buy them so that that person can profit. According to CoinMarketCap, there's 1,530. So it's very difficult for a new person coming into the space to decide, okay, well, how do I know that Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin Gold, you know, which one's the one to own? Why should I own Bitcoin Gold over Bitcoin Cash, you know? And you have to do a bit of research and look into what they're offering as differently to Bitcoin, if you like. Now, it's in my honest opinion that Bitcoin will always be a step ahead because, one, people know Bitcoin and that's going to be very hard to shake. If you see any programs or any material, whether that's magazine, video, movies on, they won't say the story of cryptocurrency. It's always Bitcoin big or bust, Bitcoin, banking on Bitcoin, who wants to become a Bitcoin millionaire. It always has that Bitcoin name in it. So a lot of people are incentivized for Bitcoin to succeed. So therefore there's going to be a lot of developers, a lot of manpower, a lot of hash power dedicated to making Bitcoin work. So if there are issues, so like at the moment, Bitcoin is actually having some major updates implemented, like a second layer to make it work, to make it faster, to make it cheaper. And those are things like SegWit and the Lightning Network. These are all being implemented as we speak to make Bitcoin work. So in that respect, then obviously these other coins that have been spurred off, say Bitcoin Cash, potentially could be worth nothing. But now they've built up their own following. There's people that believe in Bitcoin so much. And if you go on Twitter, you'll see what I mean. People are really passionate about Bitcoin Cash being the actual true Satoshi's image of being an online cash. Whether you believe that or not, that's up to you. Please comment down below what your thoughts are. So what are the ones coming up that we should keep an eye on? So if you actually have a look, there's quite a lot of coins that are being forked going forward. And the best way to either get on these coins is, and there's two options really. One is to wait for them to be made and see what they're worth at that point in time and just buy some off an exchange that will start offering them. Or you can buy the coin that it's forking off. So there's two at the moment that really stick in my mind because their price has gone up quite a lot in the last week or so. You've got Bitcoin Private, which is actually a Z Classic fork, and that is essentially going to be a Bitcoin, in their opinion, with Z Classic type of privacy protocols in their blockchain. So therefore it becomes a more private coin. Now, they're actually rebranding this. They could name it Z Classic New or Z Classic 2.0, but they are choosing to call it Bitcoin Private. Why? Because obviously Bitcoin, the name, has a certain value in terms of people have heard of it, people understand it. If I went up to someone and said, right, you can either buy normal Bitcoin or Bitcoin Private, you could figure it out very quickly, like, oh, so it's Bitcoin but a bit more private. Yeah, okay, yeah, I'll buy some of that. Whereas, say for, and I use this one, I believe it's pronounced Callisto. Please let me know if I'm saying that wrong. Callisto is a hard fork that's coming up off the Ethereum Classic chain. So their blockchain is going to be forked off into Callisto. Now, if I went up to someone in the street and said, are you going to own some Callisto? They're going to say, what the hell are you talking about? What the hell is Callisto? So for me to get that information out there, I would obviously have to tell them. They'd have to read about it, do some research. You know, has it got a proven track record? Whereas when you hear Bitcoin Private, you think, oh, okay, it's the same as Bitcoin. So I know it works. I know it's It's been going for years, even though these are not true. But that's the impression that it gives psychologically, and that's why I say that having the name Bitcoin has a certain value. Now, this website, rados.io, they've actually created an image of what CoinMarketCap could look like in 2020, which is poking a bit of fun, but it could potentially happen. You've got the top 10 coins. You've got Bitcoin, Bitcoin Fire, Bitcoin Gold, Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin Storm, Bitcoin 2, Bitcoin Scam. And potentially, joking aside, that could happen if enough people invest in the other types of Bitcoin, and that becomes the coin to have. Something like that could be possible. So I don't think that's very good for the market. We want diversity. We want different development teams, different technologies competing off each other. If there's only one horse in a race, that horse can run as slow as it wants, and it will still win. You want 20 horses all racing against each other so that they're all pushing each other forward, and you get the best one finish the line first. That's my opinion. Let me know what you think down below. But we've got some other coins coming up. We've got Bitcoin. Bitcoin Gold's already happened, but where's that list of? This is a list of up and coming forks to look forward to. Bitcoin, and these are real ones. Obviously, that image I just showed you is a joke one, but these are real coins that are actually planned to come out at some point. Bitcoin X, Super Bitcoin, Bitcoin Platinum, Lightning Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash Plus, Bitcoin Silver, Bitcoin Top, Bitcoin God, Bitcoin Segwit 2X, Bitcoin Interest, Bitcoin Atom. A lot of Bitcoin names there, and I think it will be confusing for people, but like I say, with the original Bitcoin, it has got a development incentive behind it, because so many people will profit if Bitcoin succeeds, that I believe that it will always be pushed forward. And every time one of these coins come out with a new technology or a new protocol, or it just does something that people agree with, the original Bitcoin can obviously, the development team, I say team, like the people that all can program and update the protocols on Bitcoin, they can say, well, do you know what, they've done that really good and that works, and we're going to implement the best bits of that onto the Bitcoin network. So I believe that every time one of these are created, it only strengthens the original Bitcoin. It's like Formula One. I watch Formula One. When Mercedes release a small update on their car, all the other teams take photos of it, and the following week their team have got that update on their car. And I believe that will happen with Bitcoin, because this is something that can always be updated and can always be upgradable. So it's going to be very hard for anyone else to really sort of push Bitcoin aside, because if they do say, they say, look, I do this really well, it's only going to take someone to sort of try and implement the code and the programming skill to implement it onto Bitcoin. And all some Bitcoins like, yeah, do you know what, I can do that now as well. So that's my opinion. Again, let me know what you think. But these are ones that are coming up. So we have got Z Classic, as we've just talked about. Now, this is something that you have to bear in mind and be careful of. So obviously we're talking about it forking off and creating these new coins. So if I was to buy one Z Classic coin today, it would cost me $153. Obviously on I think it was the 5th of March or something like that, we're going to have from Z Classic Bitcoin Private. That's on the 28th of February. So sorry, I correct myself there. That's in 2 weeks from today. So as of today, I don't know what Bitcoin Private is going to be worth when it gets released. So if I want to secure a Bitcoin Private, I can buy a Z Classic coin today, and I will receive one Bitcoin Private coin on the 28th of February. Some people see this as the cheapest way of getting the new coin before anyone else, which it probably will be. But what you have to bear in mind is before that hard fork was not announced, it was obviously in the pipeline, but obviously they need to decide on what block it's going to happen, and then people can work out what date it's going to happen. Before that, the price of Z Classic was around $88. It is now trading for, even with a 10% drop today, it's trading for $153. So you've got to think there that potentially Z Classic is overinflated by around about 50% at the minute because of this fork that's happening. Now, what I assume is going to happen is once the hard fork happens, people receive their Bitcoin private and their Z Classic. They're going to think, well, I don't want the Z Classic anymore, so they're going to dump that stock. They might keep hold of the Bitcoin private and see what price it goes up to, or if it is, it goes up in price that day, they may sell both of them, sell both their coins off, so then both of them sort of are going up and down in price. So you need to be very hot on it, if you like. You need to be very quick in making your decision, because what you will probably find is that as soon as that hard fork happens, Z Classic, if you've bought it at the $160 or even $170 mark, it all of a sudden becomes worth $80 overnight. Therefore, you've lost, over 50% of your investment. Now, if you put in £10,000, that means on that day you've lost £5,000, and it may take months. It may never ever go back up to that price. You've literally lost out on that. So that is something to be careful of. On the plus side of that, you've gained this new coin, the Bitcoin private, but how much is that going to be worth? We don't know. If you've just lost £5,000, you've got to hope those coins go up and worth £5,000 just to break even with your original investment. So that is something to be careful of, and that is something a lot of people are sort of hoping for, that they buy their Z Classic at this price, they get hold of some Bitcoin private. Bitcoin private goes the way of Bitcoin Cash. Bitcoin Cash is currently worth $1,300 per coin. So if you get 10 coins, you could have 10 grand, and that's what obviously a lot of people are hoping on. The other one is Ethereum Classic. So this is having a hard fork as well, and this one's quite a cheap coin. So you can buy these for $33. So if I buy this $33 for $100, I could own 3 of these coins. And when it hard forks, which I believe is the 5th of March, I know one of them was the 5th of March, to Callisto, 5th of March, obviously I'm going to receive 1 coin of Callisto for every 1 Ethereum Classic that I own. So therefore, quite cheaply for $100, I've now gained 6 coins, and hopefully one of them goes up in price. But again, the same thing. Obviously, it could tank after. And also another thing to bear in mind is that the hard forks can be delayed. So they might announce that the hard fork is going to happen on the 15th of December, and as it gets closer to the time, there could be teething problems. It may open up hacking issues. The development team can decide, actually, we want to delay this. And therefore, say for me, if I own some Ethereum Classic in December, thinking it's going to fork, and they say, well, actually, it's not coming out now till March, I might think, oh God, I'm going to quickly get rid of my Ethereum Classic. But obviously, loads of people are going to think the same thing. The price might drop down loads. Therefore, you've lost money again. So that's something to bear in mind. I've never owned a coin and it's been forked and I've generated 2. So I would like to buy probably some Ethereum Classic, just to see how that process is. How easy is it to generate these 2 coins? How do I go about having the correct wallet for both? There's a few questions that I'd like to learn myself. And I encourage you to follow my channel, and obviously I'll inform you of any findings that I have. Hopefully that has explained hard forking in more simple layman's terms. I'm sorry I'm not too technical with it, because I don't want to say something and completely mislead people. This is all from my understanding of it and my opinion of things. So bear that in mind when you're doing your research or investing in anything. And I'm not leading you down one way, a path or another. You've got to look at the pros and cons. If you invest in Ethereum Classic today, you're paying top end price for it because it has been rising over the last week or so. So you're paying high end money for that coin. But then on the flip side of that, you're receiving a second coin in 2 weeks' time. So that's it from me. If you want to see more content like this from me, please give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I generally do videos almost on a daily basis, if not every other day, of doing sort of talking about my investments that I have going on, and also what's happening with the markets in my opinion. And I'm going to be doing one of those probably later on today. But this one I just wanted to dedicate, I wanted it to be its own video, just talking about hard forking for new people coming into the space. So I hope that's helped. If it hasn't, sorry to waste your time. But don't forget, you can chat to me either through the comment section down below, or you can join my Telegram group and talk to the guys on there. And they were the people that actually requested that I do a video about hard forking. So I hope that's helped, and I hope that explains a few things for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video from Bit Glen. Bye.